Hey everyone, this is Mindy Caliguire. I'm glad you're here with us. This is part of what we're doing at Soul Care and on a regular basis on Fridays. But whenever you're engaging with us is awesome. But on Fridays in my time zone, we are pausing at the end of a week. And the purpose of these spaces and places is kind of threefold. One is we'd love to get to know you and who's connecting with these ideas. We'd love to guide us all together in a practice at the end of the week and just sort of have a way of exiting at the end of a week and centering, grounding, and appreciating. So we'll be doing some of that and also letting you know some of the fun things that are happening and coming up ahead and how you can be involved in what's happening with soul care. It's been a really fun journey, fun story, and so we're delighted you're here. So I am normally in Boulder, Colorado. Today I'm in Arvada, Colorado, and which is like 15 minutes away. So in Mountain Time in the United States. And if you're joining us at now or at some point in the future, love to have you use the chat feature and tell us your name and maybe where you're joining us from, because it would be really fun to have a sense of who's with us. And I think today is the first time we're actually streaming not only on YouTube, but also on Instagram. So we'll see how this goes. Whatever platform you're on, welcome. And whatever time you actually engage with us, welcome. Yeah, again, Mindy Caliguire, what we're doing is related to the themes and ideas of soul care, which is something that I have personally been involved with for coming up on 30, a little over 30 years. And that's kind of hard to believe, but it is true. And it was that time way long ago that I first sort of ran into the end of myself in the middle of a very devoted life of deep faith and engagement in community and devoted service to God and to people, and really detonated the well-being of my own soul, not realizing that was what was happening, but it was pretty severe. And coming out of that season, just such a merciful path out of great pain and out of suffering and confusion and disappointment and all that. I was invited onto a different path, and I thought of it as learning how to take care of my soul. And so today I get to have a lot of different people who are sharing that journey with me and with our team, and are similarly finding a path out of maybe some really difficult circumstances or times in one's life. But the circumstances don't change necessarily. If they do, wonderful. But what does change is our resilience, our capacity, our ability to connect. So I see that we have Marta joining us from London. Awesome, welcome, and a couple of you on Instagram. This is great. I hope we can make this engaging and a little more interactive. So welcome. And what I'd like to do, like last week, we spent some time focusing on a particular prayer form that has been really helpful to me in the past. It's called, we just think of it as a prayer of surrender. You can go listen to that recording if you're interested in learning more. Today, we're going to enter into this end of week reflection and then focus on a new form of prayer that is going to come a little bit out of my own personal reflection. So, as promised, what we're going to do is pause right now. And wherever you are, if it's appropriate, if you can, don't close your eyes if you're driving. But if you want to, just let it be quiet for, I don't know, a couple seconds. Close your eyes if you want. Maybe relax your shoulders a little bit. What we'd like to do is just initiate our time together with the invitation to God to call to our minds something that we want to notice from this past week. So this is one of the values of an end of the week reflection is we're not just barreling through into the next set of meetings or the next emails we need to answer or the next family gathering that we need to get ready for. All of those are great and they will come. But before we move into what's next, we're learning to pause. at the end of the week and stop and just open ourselves to listening for God to highlight for us something from the past week that we want to recall. It might be something that we are grateful for and want to express appreciation and gratitude for. It might be something that needs to be grieved or something we need to make amends on. Any number of things can happen. Emmy, hello from New York City. Glad you're here. Yeah, so whatever that is, let's just pause. I'll be actually quiet for a little bit. It might feel a little awkward, but we can do this. We'll just be quiet, prayerfully asking God to call to our minds something from this past week that feels significant in some way. And so let's just create some space for that. And then we'll hear from each other if you felt like there was something you wanted to share. So, God, as our friends around the world pause in some silence together, we just invite you to speak, to call to mind something that is significant from this past week, something that maybe we should pay attention to before we just move forward. We may find something that we're grateful for. We might remember a conversation that could have been easily forgotten, a door that opened to us, or something else. Amen. All right, since we have some folks who are joining us, if you're down for it, use the chat feature and let us know. Was there something from this past week that comes to mind and that you found valuable to reflect on? And as you're hopefully typing some of those things out, or somebody may be joining us, I can go ahead because I had a fair warning. I knew what was coming. I would like to share something that I noticed from this past week when I paused to reflect just a little earlier. And what I had noticed was something around the dimension of our team. Actually, our team at Soul Care. There's people that are scattered across multiple time zones, multiple continents, multiple countries, and we don't often actually get together either in person or virtually, just because of all the different time zones and the nature of the work. But this past week, like you guys, whatever you do, you probably have a team of people that you're collaborating. It could be a volunteer organization, or it could be a corporation, anything in between. But or a neighborhood that's trying to get together and help a family in need. Whatever it is, we collaborate. We find others who are passionate about the same things we are, and we bring our efforts together. And as we do that, fun stuff usually comes of it. And I was reflecting on this past week and noticing how many gifts came to me personally, came to the team, to each other, came to the people and organizations we serve as a result of those energies. And I just felt a ton of gratitude for each and every one of our team, and that took me to the form of prayer that we're going to focus on today. So go ahead and put anything in the chat that you want to, that's something you've noticed about your week, and we'll kind of pause and acknowledge that. But with that, I wanted to move into the form of prayer that I'd love to just spend some time thinking together about, and then perhaps it would be an encouragement for you to put into practice in your context, in your circumstances. And it's very simply just a prayer of blessing. Last week we talked about a prayer of surrender, but this week we want to talk about a prayer of blessing and how that kind of functions. Maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't, and I believe it does. And my husband and I actually had read a book, oh gosh, a couple of years ago, called I think it was called The Grace Outpouring. And it was about a little couple that had taken over stewardship and eventual ownership of a retreat location in Wales. And this really cool story of them sort of coming to terms with what it meant to be the caretakers and stewards of this place. And then what they found was that they began praying prayers of blessing, speaking words of blessing over anyone that came to their location. And then that started to spill over into like the different kinds of ways they would just speak words of blessing over their town and over the school teachers and the farmers that had the working the fields nearby. And really, and that's why they titled the book The Grace Outpouring, is because they felt like they saw an outpouring of the grace of God, of the goodness of God, of the activity of God in our day in very real circumstances. And so we were at that time, my husband and I, just beginning to come into ownership of what we now think of as Whisper Ranch. And you can learn more about that on Soul Care and Soul Care's website. But we thought, wow, blessing is a big deal. We want to get better at that. We want to learn how to bless people, how to use our words to put into motion, we believe, some goodness in the world. Like we kind of need a lot of that this in our day. So so that's what had sort of inspired me and us and our community around us to be learning more about speaking blessing. And so that I'll pause the story there because that's a really fun thing of what how that interfaces to my team that I had gratitude for today, our team. So I want to engage here right now with Emmy in New York. So thank you so much for participating. I love this. She says, I'm going through a transition, lived in Pennsylvania for 10 years, now back in New York City for 2 months. Emotionally took a toll. Oh, lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. That's a good, I mean, not good thing, but like good that you're connecting that that's not good. Very depressed and anxious, but God has been helping me. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. This week I've tried focusing on my mental health and self-care, but every day is different. Well, Emmy, you're on the right journey. I'm glad you're here. You're not alone in that journey, both in the side of the suffering and transition and occurrence of depression and mental health and how that impacts us. But here you are taking some steps toward greater health. And with everything in me, I believe God will meet you in that path and bring alongside the resources, the relationships, the ideas, deeper sense of inner peace. And yeah, we just trust that as you are continuing to walk that path, and it's not about doing it perfectly, but intending and moving in that direction, God will meet you there. So well done. And thanks for being here and thanks for joining in. And yeah, we just want to bless you. Yeah, you have no clue how you found our page, but super glad. Oh, I love it. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, I have no idea how you found it either. But again, this is how God meets us. And we were praying actually right before the call, or right before whatever you call this, is not a call, but right beforehand that people would find us. So Emmy, you're an answer to prayer. And God just works through the interwebs, right? And all these digital spaces. It's really kind of amazing how our world works these days. So back to a day earlier in just like a little bit earlier than today right now, when I was having this reflection exercise, thinking back to what was I grateful for, having it come to mind how remarkable people are, people's energies, people's creativity, people's sense of humor, and how what their fun factor is to work with. And just I was full of so much gratitude and appreciation for our team that I get to work with. And as I was thinking about that and thinking about prayers of blessing, I actually had a ton of fun sitting on my porch with my morning coffee and just person by person speaking words of blessing over each one of them. And like, I can't tell you exactly right now what those words even were. But it's fun when it feels awkward at first, or I did for me. It felt very awkward at first to learn how to like let my mouth move in the direction of I want to bless this person's mindset, and I want to bless their creativity, and I want to bless the output of the work they're doing, and I want to bless their family and their finances, and it flows a little more easily over time. I know when I first was reading that book and trying to learn from it, trying to do something that felt not natural. Like, we hear of blessing all the time. There's blessings all over the Bible. There's blessings that become, part of our heritage. I'm Irish, so there's like Irish blessings. There's all these kinds of words of blessing that exist in the world. But I found myself anyway to be quite unpracticed in speaking a blessing over someone quite personally and quite directly. So I've been growing in it for the last few years, and it was really fun to call to mind a team member and then be speaking blessing over them. Um, and so that's what I wanted to kind of bring to you all today. Maybe there's someone in your world that you can think of, and we can do this even when we ourselves are in a place of maybe relative deficit. Um, but who could you speak a word of blessing? Maybe to them, which is a very powerful thing to do. Um, and sometimes as you're in the middle of it, ideas will come to mind of what to bless in their life. I'm trying to remember a specific couple that I felt prompted to ask them, and I don't even know necessarily what their view of God is. That, it's a part of their life, but not, anyway. I just said, "Hey, would it be okay if I said a blessing over you?" And then they said yes, and I was like, "Oh no, now what?" But it was so good to I knew them a little bit, but to start speaking this word of blessing over them, and all of a sudden these ideas and words would just pour out of me about their work in the world and the way their work would influence a whole community. And it just was really beautiful to me. I can't say that I know for sure how all of this stuff works, but I think it's a wonderful thing for us to bless people, to intend these things, to ask for God's blessing, etc., etc. What book? The book, thanks for asking, guys. It was called The Grace Outpouring, and we can probably find a way to put a link to it in the notes here at some point. But yeah, it was just called The Grace Outpouring, and it's well written. It was a great story. Um, and I actually, some friends of ours that I chirped to about this book because it had such a big impact on us, they actually went to visit the actual place in Wales. I was so jealous. It was like they've been there. So you can even go to Wales if you want to do a little pilgrimage to the name of this place, and it's in Welsh. I can't pronounce the name of the place accurately, so you'll have to read the book. But it's a great resource. So blessing other people. Now, of course, the sort of pattern that we saw in God's way of relating to people is that God was the one who was initiating blessings. And if you are in a season when you're feeling the need to receive a blessing, some of these blessings from the scriptures in the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, however, First Testament, whatever you wanted to call it, all of those are accurate. Like, for example, it's referred to in my tradition as an Aaronic blessing, comes from one of the books in the Pentateuch, the book of Numbers. And at the very end of number 6, God says to Moses and to Aaron and his sons, This is how you are to bless the Israelites. Say to them, so God is teaching Moses and Aaron how to bless, and their sons, how to bless their people. So this is instruction on blessing here, so we can all take note. And it says, say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. And friends, I don't know that there's many people in our world right now that wouldn't sign up for being on the receiving end of the Lord's face shining toward us. And other authors I've talked to have talked about how, or to bless and keep you. God's face is always shining towards you, always. The Lord be gracious to you, turn his face toward you, and give you peace. That is one of the deepest human needs that exists, is this need for inner peace. And in English, sometimes we think of peace as like a lack of interpersonal conflict, and that's valuable and important. But the biblical concept of peace, the Hebrew idea of peace, is much bigger than just that. It could include that, but it's much bigger than that. That's the Hebrew word shalom, which is this massive, robust idea of basically what we think of as human flourishing, of a deep, fundamental wellness in all dimensions. It includes, but extends far beyond, a lack of interpersonal conflict. Shalom is a blessing in and of itself. Shalom is a blessed life. So the Lord bless you and keep you. This is our training on how to bless somebody else. You can always use these words. You could say to the person that you're saying goodbye to at the end of a fun dinner, and you'll be like, hey, can I just bless you as we leave? Wouldn't that be cool? And you could say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. And friends, I believe that the saying of those words matters. It's not like a magic formula or something, but it is a spiritual reality. It is a prayer. It is a blessing. It is something that you have chosen to put into motion and that matters in our world. So whatever form you might choose, we know blessing is a big part throughout scriptures, and it seems like it's a bigger deal sometimes there even than we in a more Western context might, or at least that's my context. It's not all of y'all, but for me in a American context, it's in the church here. I think it's something that we haven't done a lot with. And I might be on a one woman crusade to try to restore that or recover that. And I hope you'll be part of it because our words matter. And the words people hear spoken over them matter. Most of us have heard lots of words of judgment or criticism, but to hear words of blessing into your life, transformational. So that's some of the things I wanted to bring to you today. By way of a practice for us to enter into, noticing. If anybody else has something you want to add about something from this past week that you want to sort of put a pin in, recognize, maybe it's appreciation, maybe it's a next step for you, whatever it is, feel free to share it in the chat. We'd love to engage with you on that. But a couple of other things I can let you know that are coming up through Soul Care that you might be interested in joining in on, especially if you're engaging in this digital space. If you're not already connected to our monthly semi-silent retreats, and if that sounds like a mouthful and a bit of an oxymoron, then join the fun that we have with a semi-silent retreat. We do them every month, the first Saturday of every month from 9 till noon in Mountain Time. And it's through our online community we have called the Soul Care Collective, which you can get to. We can put a note at the bottom as well, but it's collective.soulcare.com. And it's an online community. We've got people from all over the world, all different kinds of walks of life there. And a subset of those gather monthly for a time of engagement quickly, getting to know a few other people, and then we break for 2 hours of silence and solitude. And during that time, there's a guide that you'll be given, and you get to go through that guide on your own. And then for the last 30 minutes of that 3 hour window, is when we come back together to reconnect and hear what came up for you, et cetera. And so tomorrow's the first Saturday of the month of August. And so we will be doing that from 9 till noon in Mountain Time. And our topic, no one else knows this, you're the first to know. Our topic is going to be each time we have a topic for one small piece of it, is going to be light, the topic of light. So there will be more coming on that. Let's see. So that's tomorrow. You can sign up for the semi-silent retreat there. And then another thing to let you know of that's kind of fun, and you're also kind of the first to hear about this, is there's a book coming out called Ignite Your Soul that is coming out in September. We're so excited. The pre-orders have started, and it's really fun to see the wheels of and people's just enthusiasm and encouragement on that. So we hope it'll have a ton of valuable impact on people's lives. And it's really about how hard circumstances can actually light a path toward flourishing. So we're doing a first ever book club on Ignite Your Soul that'll start about a month from yesterday. So September 1st, we're going to start this book club. It'll be on that online community. So if you go to the collective, you'll be hearing more about that. There's a question here about our ministry's denomination, and that's a really good question. Um, I, we aren't anchored to any one denomination, but within the Christian faith, my personal background is in a lot of non-denominational or that kind of Christian church environment. But others on the team have come from more, what would you think of, liturgical traditions. Some are coming from a more micro church kind of involvement. All of those have been part of the breadth of representation into more charismatic communities, more liturgical, more evangelical, more, which has meant political things of late. So we don't mean it in that sense. We mean it in the concern for the scriptures and that kind of stuff, a more traditional sense. But that would be like a little bit of an answer. I hope that answers your question. And Jamie Bowman says, Soul Care has been very instrumental for me and an answer to prayer. Oh, thanks, Jamie. You are so welcome. Thanks for saying thank you for our ministry. Where are you calling in from or joining us from? Where's Jamie from? Toss that in there in the chat if you have a minute to share that with us. Yeah, well, guys, this has been fun. We keep hearing that like right at the 30-minute mark is when all of a sudden a bunch more people come, so we might stay here a little bit longer. But I would love to. Oh, great, you're coming in from Southern California. Great, love it. Yeah, some of our team is out in that area. Yeah. Well, if it's all right, I would love to use this Aaronic blessing again to not just read it from the text, but to bless you wherever you are, wherever you're listening. Yeah, let's borrow from these words because it must be significant that God said, "This is how you are to bless my people." So this is what I want to say to you today. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you with the radiance of an adoring father, an adoring mother, a nurturing grandparent. The Lord be gracious to you. sometimes people's view of God is that he's quite angry and a little fed up. And I don't think that's God's heart. And so we speak, the Lord be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you. You have his full attention and give you peace. So that's our prayer for you today. That's Soul Care's prayer for you. Godspeed, friends. If there's anything else we can do to be supportive to you, make sure to run over to soulcare.com, get on our mailing list, reach out to us through there if you have questions or concerns or whatever ideas you have. We love learning from our community. Thanks for being with us today. Godspeed.